What is up, and welcome into another episode of the Somebody Said Canes show, brought to you by me, Breeze. Every week I'm here talking nothing but Miami Hurricanes, usually football. Tonight I'm actually gonna mix it up a little bit. I'm gonna throw in a little basketball, I'm gonna throw in a little baseball. I watch those too. Gotta show love to the other sports. If somebody said Canes, not just somebody said Canes football. Most of what I talk about is going to be football, but I'm gonna throw in some other stuff too, some other sports, some of the other things that I enjoy from a Miami Hurricanes perspective. As always, I appreciate everybody that tunes in. Please hit the like, please hit the subscribe. Does nothing to hurt you. All it does is help me. You're not gonna get spam calls, texts, emails, mail to your house. None of that. All you do is help me out. And I appreciate that. So if you enjoy anything about the content I provide, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe. I will very, very much appreciate you doing so. This show is Somebody Said Kane show as part of the Somebody Said Sports Network. Every Monday night on the Somebody Said Sports YouTube, we are going live at 9 p.m. talking everything football. So here I'm talking Canes. Over there, we talk everything football, college, NFL. Had a dope show this past Monday. If you like football more than just Canes, if you watch other teams and stuff like that, go check that out. I think we do a pretty good job as being two other dudes, my peoples. We run that show. We have a really good time with it. It's a lot of fun. A lot of folks been showing a lot of love this week. Subs are going up. We're up over 200 subs. We've been at this like 3 months. Already over 200 subs, man. And I just got to say that I'm grateful. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for showing love, man. Thank y'all for rocking out with me here on Somebody Said Canes YouTube page, man. And hopefully I just continue to bring content that people enjoy. Talking all type of Canes content, everything that you can think of, man, top to bottom, plenty of football, diving deep into that. As always, we're going to do some of that tonight. As you can see in the show title, I'm going to talk about who are the leaders. It's that time of year when you start identifying who your leaders are going to be for next season. Should we be concerned about the offensive line? I got a clip from somebody who would talk about this best, even better than me. So we're going to drop that clip and y'all can see what that man had to say about it. And then we're going to finish up with some basketball and some baseball. Before I get into the content, though, real quick, I got to do a quick shout out to Flo, John over there on the Miami Flow podcast, their YouTube show. They had me over there on Sunday. Man, them dudes show nothing but love, man. They're good folks. You wouldn't have been able to tell it was my first time rocking with them because they just welcome you in like family, man. We know this Cane's life as a family. Other people wouldn't understand. Those dudes really welcomed me in, man. They reached out to me to bring me on the show. I'm a pup. You know, I'm a newcomer in this game. And the Miami Flow podcast been at it for some years, man. Them dudes is locked in. Them dudes is in the trenches. They've been at it for a while. So for them to reach out to me to bring me on their show, I thought was a big sign of love, man. And I really appreciate them dudes, man. Big shout out to Flo. Big shout out to John. It's the Miami Flow podcast. Find it on YouTube. They're on Twitter as well. Go watch that. They put out a lot of great content, as do many other people who do Miami centralized shows. So continue to show love to the other people, man. You know, there's no such thing as too much Miami content. Doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and get into it, though, man. I said it. This is the time of year where you start to find out who are going to be the leaders on your team. This is the off-season workout time. So we know who the team is going to be. We know what the roster is going to be. There is no spring portal. The roster that we have right now is the roster that we're going to take into next season. 99.99% sure of that. Who are the guys that are going to lead the charge, right? Because one of the key things in college football right now, with the transfer portal, with turnover happening at such a high rate, you need guys who can carry your culture forward. One of the really cool things about Indiana, people talks about how old that team was. They were a playoff team last year. And a number of them dudes came back to carry forward that culture that Cignetti that had established with them when they came over there with him. Mario's trying to do the same thing, right? Mario just made his playoffs for the first time. He's reloaded from a talent standpoint. And now we want to go do what Indiana did. Your first year in the playoff, okay, cool. You have a little bit of success. How do you build on that? How do you take that next step? Well, to do that, You need players who can carry your culture forward, right? You heard that the old saying, the best teams are player-led teams. So right now, you're identifying who are those leaders are going to be. And so you need them on both sides of the ball. You need them in each position group, really, if we're being honest, but you need them on both sides of the ball, and they will establish it for the whole team. So who do I think are going to be the leaders for this team? Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. I think this conversation on offense begins and ends with this man right here. Mr. Long Live Big Mark himself, Mark Fletcher Jr., is going to be one of the biggest leaders on this offense. And having a guy like him is so important for a couple of reasons. One, he's a homegrown South Florida kid, grew up down south, went to American Heritage, committed to Miami out of high school. He's been in the program now multiple years, all under Mario. So he knows what Mario expects. He knows what Mario wants this offense to be doing in the offseason. He's a lead by example guy. He's a vocal guy. In fact, I'm going to quote Mario. Mario said that Mark Fletcher was the heartbeat of the team. Y'all remember that? Do y'all remember when Mario had that interview? And he kind of slipped it in there. He didn't make a big deal about it, but they had asked him about Mark, and that was part of his response, man. And that really resonated with me. And that said a lot, especially when you're talking about a team that had a completely veteran offensive line. You had a fifth-year senior at quarterback who had played a lot of football. You had veteran receivers who were going to be there for a season and going on to the league. And he said that Mark was the heartbeat of that team. I thought that said a lot. Who are the other guys that have to be there with Mark? It can't just be one guy. Well, of course, your quarterback has to be a leader too. Darian Mensah, we know, is going to be the quarterback, elite talent, a first-round draft pick, in my opinion. This time next year, we'll be talking about him going in the first round. He has to be a leader. The quarterback is the most important position on the field. He touches the ball every down, right? Unless we go into Molly cat formations, which hopefully we're not doing a lot of that. But your quarterback has to be a leader. And so Mario has already talked about Mensah's leadership ability. I mentioned it last week. He's already leading player-led workouts. He's already throwing with the receivers. You saw Molly there at his dinner when he took his visit to Miami, building that rapport, building that relationship. Your quarterback has to lead from the front, man. And that's one of the reasons why you go get a veteran quarterback. He was a starter at Tulane. He was then a starter at Duke. They voted him to be a captain on that Duke team, and by one of their own players at Mission, after him only being there a handful of months. It didn't take long before the players at Duke recognized Darian Mensah's leadership ability and then voted him to be a player captain. That's a big deal. That speaks to his ability to, as I said, lead from the front. One of the best things about a leader is you got to get people that want to follow you. Well, you have to be able to get people to want to follow you. And seemingly Mensah's got that, right? If his teammates are voting him to be a captain, he had only been there for a handful of months, clearly he's got that ability. Who are the other guys on the offense that I think could be leaders as well? Well, we know since Mario's been there and he's really developed that O-line the way he's wanted to, those guys have often been culture carriers as well. So I'm looking at some returners who've been there for a while. I'm looking at Matt McCoy. You were a starter all season. I'm looking at Samson Okunlola. You've been there going into your fourth season, former 5-star recruit. You were kind of a half starter last year, was Samson. I'm looking at Ryan Rodriguez. Many of us expect Ryan to be the starting center. You're going into your 5th or 6th year, Ryan Rodriguez is. You know exactly what Mario's expecting. You know what that culture needs to look like. Those guys have to be culture carriers. And then also, I'm looking at Molly. Molly's a young dude, true freshman, baller, getting a lot of shine. He threw out the first pitch at the baseball game on opening night, Friday night. We saw him get the love at the Miami Heat game. He's turned into a local superstar. Love that for him. Made the crib, ball at the crib. You can't be a young guy no more. You're not a rookie no more. You're now a vet on this roster. You were with this team all last offseason. You were the most explosive, the best player on that offense last year for a team that went and competed for a national championship. So Molly's got to be a leader as well. You can lead by example, but also, as we heard about stories with like Inez Cooper, As we heard about some other guys, you also got to learn to find your voice in the room too. And then you be a vocal leader as well as leading by example. Molly's going to lead by example. Molly's going to put in the work. We know that. Anything you hear about Molly, he's grinding, right? But you also got to find that voice. You got to be a vocal leader too. And I expect Molly to do that. On defense, man, defensive leadership starts right here with this guy, Mo Torre. He was the signal caller last season for this defense. He has experience playing in Corey Heatherman's defense. He knows the system. He knows what Heatherman wants. He now has a whole season of seeing how Mario handles business. You got to be a leader on that defense. He was last year. This is why you are excited about getting a guy like Mo Torre to be able to come back, getting additional year eligibility so he can also be a culture carrier. He's also going to be the guy who calls the offense in, right? Heatherman's got the headset now. We know college football's got that. On defense, Mo Torre is the one that gets the calls. Mo Torre is the one that Heatherman is feeding the play into, and then Mo is feeding that information to the rest of his teammates. They got the signals and stuff like that. Heatherman's signals are actually quite hilarious to watch him carry out. But anyway, Mo Torre's got to be one of those culture carriers, and I fully expect him to be so. Who else on that defense can be a culture carrier? I'm looking at Amar Moten. Amar Moten, I mentioned last week, could have went to the league, decides to come back for his, I believe, 4th year in the system. Maybe it's 5th. You've developed in this system. You're playing under D. Lou. You're being taught up by him and Jason Taylor. You passed on an opportunity to go to the league. You're considered one of the best D tackles coming back to college football. You've been in the system. You know what the expectation is. I fully expect Amar Moten to be one of those culture carriers. And again, it's so important having these kind of guys that return year over year. The guys who just went through the grind, who saw it kind of go from 5 and 7 to being a natty contender. Those are your guys that are carrying your culture. I'm looking at the cornerback room. I'm looking at OJ Frederick and I'm looking at Damari Brown. Both local recruited kids. OJ is going into his 3rd season. Damari is going into his 4th season. Y'all been around for some years now. Y'all know what that expectation is. Little coaching shakeup on the defense. Some guys getting some opportunities to go to the league. Shout out to those coaches getting those opportunities. So even more so now, you need guys like OJ and Damari being culture carriers. You need those guys bringing the culture forward, telling the new guys how to do the work, what the expectation is, and holding dudes to a standard. And then finally, I'm looking at Armando Blunt and Marquise Lightfoot. 2 guys going into their 3rd seasons, former 5-star recruits. They have been working with Jason Taylor. They've been working with D. Lou. Again, they've been on the roster. They know what the expectation is. Y'all guys saw it go from, what was it? We won 7 games their freshman year. We went 7-5 Mario's 2nd year. Y'all saw the difference between how a 7-5 team looked and how a natty contender team looked. So y'all have to be the ones now to carry that culture forward to say, this is what that work looks like. This is what it looks like for a team in the offseason, because this is where national champions are built, right? Everybody's not really going to be able to watch and see exactly what happens until the fall, right? You get a glimpse of it in spring, but really it's the fall, right, is when the fruits bear. But what you do in the fall is based on what you're doing right now. Winter workouts, going into your spring ball. This is when the national championship teams are really made. And so those guys got to be the leaders, man. They got to lead from the front. They got to carry the culture forward that's been established. We saw what a cohesive team can do that has the talent. We're going to have even more talent in some positions. Can those guys carry that culture and hold dudes to a standard to where we're able to sustain success, which is what we really want. We want to win natties, but really you want to sustain success at the end of the day. You want to remain competitive. Nobody wants to be TCU that year where they make that run to the playoffs during the playoffs and then they fall off a map. Now, we're not here for that. We're here to see this team continue to compete. And that's when we'll be able to say that the U is back, man, when they're consistently competing. Let's flip the script a little bit. Let's talk about this O-line. Should we be concerned about the O-line? A lot of people are. We're losing 4 starters. You're losing CeCe Mawanoa, a 3-year starter. You're losing Inez Cooper, a 3-year starter. We're losing the transfer center. We're losing our left tackle, Markel Bell, which apparently he wasn't unable to get another year of eligibility, so that's part of why he had to go to the league. We're replacing 4 guys. So on the surface, on paper, it's very easy to be like, man, I don't know what that old line gonna look like. You hear people saying that. I don't know, man. I don't know about that old line, man. You hear the talk. You hear that's what people are saying. Should we be concerned about it? Well, don't listen to me. More important than what I think about the O line, let's hear from Mario himself. What did Mario have to say about the O line? So I mentioned last week that Mario went on a media tour. One of his stops was on the Through the Smoke podcast done by David Lake and Gabby Urruti. They do a fantastic job. They specifically asked him about the O line.
I've had the benefit of watching some veterans play together for a good bit, and they understand the importance of 5 guys always working as one. But you look at the way Samson played this year. Samson played as good as anybody else in the conference, and most of the guys in the country was a co-starter, right? Matt McCoy, the same thing. Not only that, as big of an upside like Samson as anybody else that we've had go through the University of Miami. And Ryan, he didn't play as much this year, but he was a co-starter and actually started game 1 the previous year. And we consider him that as well. So you have 3 like staples, veterans that have a lot of experience coming back. And the young talent that has been developing or that just got here, big, fast, strong, physical, very, very smart. And I think you guys know the culture that Coach Mirabal creates in that room is unmatched. It's second to none, just over time and time and time. And I think what you're seeing here, and you saw our moves, right? We took one guy in the portal, second one's come on in, but we have a lot of faith in what we have recruited and what we've seen in practice, that we can continue that tradition and continue to elevate that tradition. On this side, there's no hesitation to say we're really excited about that group and for the right reasons. And it's kind of neat to see a position like this kind of run the course of what college football has been forever, where the next guy's up because he's been developed and he's been pushed. These guys can roll, man. These guys can roll. And the way we practice, experience is gained pretty quickly.
Y'all heard it from Mario himself, man. What are some takeaways from that? What are some things that stood out to me when I listened Mario answer that question about the O-line? The first one, he basically sees Samson, Matt McCoy, and Ryan Rodriguez as returning starters in a way. 2 years ago, Ryan Rodriguez was a starter when we started the season up there in Shamesville playing against the Gators. Ryan Rodriguez was a starter. He didn't play a whole lot last year, as Mario mentioned, but he's been a starter before. Matt McCoy, full-time starter for the full season last year. Absolutely returning starter. And then Samson started a couple games, played a lot of snaps, rotated it in early and often throughout the season. So Mario himself looks at those 3 guys, Samson Okunloka, Matt McCoy, and Ryan Rodriguez as returning starters. So yeah, you can easily look at the O-line and say, man, we're losing 4 or 5 starters from last year. But in a weird way, and kind of the way Mario seems to be thinking about it, we're kind of returning 3 starters. Now, is he kind of finessing? Maybe it's a little bit of a reach, sure. Ryan Rodriguez didn't play a whole lot of ball last year, so you could be concerned about, well, what does he look like now? Or you could be looking at Samson and saying he's never been a full-time starter for a full season, so how does he deal with the grind of a whole year? That's a fair question. Mario, being the offensive lineman he is, being a offensive line-minded and focused coach like he is, he has trust in those guys. If he sees those guys as starters, I see those guys as starters. If he's not worried, I'm not worried. Here's another reason or another thing I took away from that gives me confidence in this offensive line. Look at what we did in the portal. Think back to what Mario has done in the portal when there were lapses in the roster and we needed to fix it. Look at what he did at corner last offseason. Last offseason, we knew we had a problem at corner. What did he do? He threw bodies at it. He brought in a safety. He brought in Ethan O'Connor. He brought in Xavier Lucas at corner. He brought in Keontae Scott. He brought in Charles Brantley. He threw numbers at the room because it was an issue. We saw what he's done at wide receiver the last few years. Between recruiting and portal, he's throwing numbers at it. On offensive line this offseason, for this portal season, they really only recruited 2 guys out the portal. They went after the kid we end up getting, the one from Georgia, I'm blanking on his name at the moment, Jamal Merriweather, and they went after Jordan Seaton. But that's really it. If you only go after 2 old linemen, and Jamal Merriweather is expected to be a rotational guy, not even a bona fide starter, that says that Mario feels good about the guys he's got, right? If it was an issue, what would he have done? He would have threw numbers at it. What have we seen Mario do any other time there was a lapse or an issue in a position group? He threw bodies at it. He's not throwing bodies at O-line. He didn't go after a bunch of O-linemen in the portal. He didn't recruit a center. So he must feel good about the center he's got. Mario's not going to trot out a bad O-line. like that's not ever going to happen. Like, that's not even an option. So if he's not throwing numbers at the position group, if he's not going after a bunch of dudes for that room, he must feel pretty good about what he's got, which means we should feel pretty good about what he's got. And the last thing he mentioned that I'm going to take away from that video is he talked about the young dudes. Jackson Cantwell has to come to mind. Like, I'm immediately thinking about Jackson Cantwell. When he mentions the young guys, you got to be talking about the Gatorade National Player of the Year in high school football, Jackson Cantwell, 6'7.5", 325 pounds. That's got to be who you're talking about. I expect him to be a day one starter. I think everybody expects him to be a day one starter, probably at right tackle, just like CC Maui Noah was. And he must be showing something. Again, he was an early enrollee. Jackson Cantwell's been on campus. He practiced with the team during the playoff. Mario has seen his work. Mario has seen his abilities, not just in high school, not against lesser competition, and not on a camp circuit, and not in an Under Armour game. Mario has seen Cantwell in Miami practices, going up probably against the likes of Armando Blunt and Marquise Lightfoot and all those other DNs. We got Booker Pickett and Scroggins and them boys, Blunt, Lowe. He was practicing at the end of the season. So Cantwell has gone against those guys, and Mario must have saw enough to say, all right, I feel pretty good. We went after 1 tackle in the portal, Jordan Seaton. And then once the number got crazy, we backed out of it. All right, Jordan Seaton was asking for too much, and Mario said, nah, I ain't willing to do all of that. It must not be that much of a concern. Jordan Seaton, and if I'm reading that situation, must have been a nice to have, but not a need to have. So concerned about the O-line? Man, read my tagline down there for the night. I ain't worried about nothing. I feel like French Montana. I ain't worried about nothing. I ain't worried about that O-line, man. Mario not worried about it, so why would I? Right? We know when Mario's worried, man, and you could tell, dog, he ain't that worried. Let's close the show out because y'all know I try and keep these shows under 30 minutes. Let's close the show out doing some quick updates on Canes basketball and Canes baseball. Let's start with Canes basketball. The Miami Hurricanes basketball team is having a wonderful season. Big shout out to Jay Lucas, man. First year coach, first time head coach at the collegiate level, 21-5, currently third in the ACC. This team was 7-24 last year, dog. That is the best turnaround in the country. No team in the country has gone from 7 wins to 20 plus wins this season. What Jay Lucas is doing with this basketball team is phenomenal. This is year 1. He's never even been a head coach before at this level. And dog has won 21 games in his first season. Huge shout out to him. He's got the most wins by a first-year head coach in history. Right now, if you look up the bracketology on ESPN.com, they're projecting this team to be a 9 seed in March Madness in the big dance. Again, this is his first year. I don't think he returned any players from last year either. Like, check me on that. Somebody hit the comments and fact check me on that. I don't think Jay Lucas returned anybody. If I'm wrong, let me know. But even if he did, it's maybe 1 or 2. Like maybe a handful of guys at the most. And that man has won 21 games. And he's not done. They still got more games to play. What Jay Lucas has done in this first season, man, has been fantastic. Recruiting is going up too. He is a dog recruiter. If you look back at his history, go look at some of the guys he recruited to go to Duke. Go look at his resume when it comes to recruiting. Jay Lucas is a problem, right? Anybody who know what they're talking about, man, know Jay Lucas is a problem. People already talking about he might leave for a bigger job because there could be considered some bigger jobs on the college basketball landscape. That's how much people think about Jay. That's how much people think he really can accomplish, dog. This man is an issue, and as long as he is at Miami, the basketball team is in good hands, dog. 21-5 in his first season, currently third in the ACC. That's ahead of North Carolina. Let that sink in. That's ahead of the storied North Carolina Tar Heels, who they just beat about a week ago. That man Jay Lucas is a problem, man. Big shout out to Jay. Shout out to that basketball team. They also a lot of fun to watch, man. If you wasn't paying attention last night, they got a 1-point dub over Virginia Tech, held on to it. A game you kind of gotta win. You can't let those games slip away from you. It was at home. They handled business. They just knocked off North Carolina. This Canes basketball team is a lot of fun to watch, man. And this is not at all the most talented team he's gonna have. I'm tempted to say this might be the least talented team Jay ever has at Miami. Again, that recruiting is only going to go up. That portal's going to go up. He's showing some winning early. Hey, man, keep your eyes on Jay Lucas. Keep your eyes on that basketball team. If you ain't been paying attention to Canes basketball, you might want to tune in, man, because them boys doing some fun things, man. And don't be surprised if they upset some folks in March Madness. Don't be surprised if they upset some folks in the ACC tournament. Jay is coaching his tail off, dog. So big shout out to Jay Lucas. Big shout out to the Canes basketball team. Let's close this thing up talking about some Canes baseball. I definitely watch Canes baseball. JD Arteaga is in his 4th season, I think it is. Very, very talented roster. They opened up the season this past weekend. They had a 3-game homestand opening series against Lehigh. Them boys put up 57 runs. I believe that is a school record for runs in a single series. 57 runs in 3 games is some wild business. Literally, the bats were going crazy. If you don't follow us on TikTok, go follow me on TikTok, SS Canes, at Somebody Said Canes, one of those two, you'll land on the site. You'll see the logo. You see the logo up there in the corner. Man, I dropped some highlights, man, from that opening series. The boys handle business. They're currently ranked number 23 in the country by D1 Baseball. Last night, the basketball team gets a 1-point win against Virginia Tech. At the same time, the baseball team at Mark Light Field is playing against UCF. They had no hits through the first 6 innings. I'm tripping. They had no hits through the first 6 innings. They get their first hit in the 7th. They're down 5-0 to start the 8th inning. The boys end up winning that game, dog. They scored 2 runs in the 8th. They get 3 runs in the 9th. UCF did them some favors. The 4 straight batters got hit. They literally hit batters into runs. So they helped us out. Then we get a 2-run double by Mikey Torres in the 9th for another 2-run shot to tie the thing up. We got 3 runs in the 9th. You get a solo home run by Danny Dingers, Daniel Cuvée, the best third baseman in all of college baseball. He hits a solo shot in the 10th, and then you get a walk-off 2-run homer in the 12th inning, dog, by Van Sheehan, who was a transfer. Man, the baseball team is doing some great stuff, man. It's going to be a fun team to watch. To me, this is a Omaha or bust team. If I'm looking at the Miami Hurricanes team, I'm looking at the roster. We got some injuries right now, too. If I'm looking at Hurricanes baseball and if I'm putting some expectations on them because we've invested in them, there's been some resources thrown at that baseball team, I'm talking Omaha or bust. The boys might be able to do it, man. They showed some fight last night in that UCF game. I was pleasantly surprised to see them not pack it in, being down 5-0 in the 8th. But them boys fought it out, man. They got themselves a big dub. That's the 30-minute mark. I try to keep it to 30. As always, man, I appreciate everybody who chooses to tune in. There's a whole lot of good Miami Hurricanes content, and if you're choosing to consume mine, I appreciate it. Big thanks. Please continue to hit that like. Please continue to hit that subscribe. Hopefully, I get some other folks on the show. I done brought some homies on already. I'm going to bring my homies back. I'm going to make some new homies and bring them on too. Hopefully continue to bring y'all some good, dope Miami content. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Y'all already know what it is. It's always go Canes. I'm going to catch y'all next week. Y'all be